welcome to the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast, where we invite you to spend a few minutes with the staff here at Cook Library. I am Nate Goss, one of the librarians here, and I am here today with John Hoke, our digital studio supervisor. Welcome, John.
Why, thank you, Nate.
John, this is the first time you're on the podcast. I can't believe that.
Yes, I've only been here like a full year.
I know, and you're in around this recording stuff all the time, and
yes,
we're just now getting you on the podcast. John is the guy who you want to go to if you have any questions about the digital studio services that we have here at Cook Library, which are relatively new-ish. I mean, we've had them for
about a year and a half. I know I was part-time when you started it,
right,
and then took over the full-time job last August.
Okay. So, yeah, these are still pretty new services and things that I think a lot of people, especially even people maybe listening to this podcast, they still maybe haven't even heard about or know that we have these kind of services. So the reason John is here today is because we actually did just open a brand new studio recording space at the Cook Park location in Libertyville. But before we get into the details of that, John, do you want to maybe just talk a little bit about the kind of things that you can do with the digital studio services at the library?
Okay, our digital studio services at Cook Library are made up of two different studio spaces, we call them. One is moved upstairs, actually, near the adult computers. That is our digitization station where you can bring in film, 35 millimeter, medium format, and even 4x5 negatives. You can bring in slides. You can also bring in LPs, VHS tapes, mini DV tapes, and cassette tapes.
So this is the place you're going to want to go in the library to take all those old formats that you're worried about whether or not your kids or your grandkids are ever going to be able to see, and get them digitized so you can start sharing them with people.
Exactly.
So that's the digitization station that's upstairs. It's been moved near the adult computers. Now, before we get into the new space down here in the lower level where we're actually recording from right now, what do we have over at the Aspen location?
At Aspen, we have all of the same equipment that we have here at Cook. We have the digitization stuff, again, plus we have a MIDI keyboard and an audio interface along with headphones, so you can actually record there also. So you can do sound recording, podcasting, voiceovers, all of that stuff you can do in one room over at Aspen.
I know, though, at Aspen, I know the space, it's a little, is it 6x6 or 10x10 or
8x8, 7x7, somewhere in there.
At Aspen, it's a pretty cozy space there, and
that's a very nice way to put it.
Yeah, and I know you can do music in there, but it's also, I know, right next to the quiet reading room. So maybe this is a good lead-in to what the new recording space is here at Cook Park, which is if someone wants to make a little bit of noise, they actually want to do some real recording with some instruments or really belt it out singing-wise. Why don't you maybe just talk a little bit about the new space now at Cook?
The new space is the one we're really excited about. We brought in a 5x7 vocal booth. It does allow for people to really jam and sing, belt it out, as you say.
Yeah.
We have the USB audio interface connected to our iMac, and they can use either GarageBand or Logic Pro to mix their music.
And actually, we are recording in the very booth you're talking about, the 5x7 booth. So it seems like, I feel like when you walk in here, you feel like you need to unclog your ears or something because it's just, you're not used to being in a space that soaks up all the sound immediately. It's just such a dead space, which is really what you want for recording.
Exactly. And it does take some getting used to, especially for someone like me who's been more a photographer all his life than having anything to do with music or sound or anything. So this is all kind of new to me, but I'm having a whole lot of fun learning about it.
Yeah. So, you can, for those of you listening to the podcast, I used to always bring the microphone into just whatever room we could find, and it worked fine, but you heard a lot of sort of reverb and sound bouncing off, and maybe even some noise once in a while from the neighboring rooms or whatever. But here, this is dead air right here. If we can even maybe do a little clap, And
yeah, that is, it is nice.
You're not hearing it. It's a perfect space. I mean, so part of it is that you can belt it out, and you're not going to disturb people outside the library. But the other aspect of it is you are in an atmosphere that's really ideal for getting good quality recording.
Exactly, and I think the people who use the old space where we had the studio set up should be really excited about this new space, because when they were recording over there in that room with the glass windows and everything, they probably weren't getting as crisp a sound as they're going to get in here.
All right, well, it's really exciting. So if someone is listening to this and they're like, hey, I've got a demo I've got to cut, never thought of the library as the place to do it, but I'm ready to sign up, what do they have to do to actually book some time here in the Digital Studios?
The easiest way is to go online to the Digital Studios page, and you can reserve up to 3 hours at a time on the page right there.
What should someone do if they need help getting started? What kind of tools do we have in the studio for that?
We have a number of resources in the studio that people can use to start. We have manuals on all of the software that is on the iMac. We also have help manuals that are actually located on the desktop of the iMac if they would just like to open them up and read them right there.
So those are like the PDFs that come with the hardware that we've bought, like
yes.
the microphones and things like that.
All of that,
yeah.
Right. And then we also have a contact form that they can send to either me or you. It's on the website, and we will be happy to come in and help them. They will also find lynda.com, which, of course, has a plethora of videos on all things technology, where they could search and follow along the Lynda lessons.
All right, great. So, John, is there anything else that you want to say about the new studio space before we head out here for the week?
Yes, if you are interested in doing any type of recording, instrumental, voiceovers, or even podcasting like this, please reserve your space, come on in. And we'd really like to be able to share what people are doing here in the vocal booth with other people on our blog.
Yeah, that blog is shelflife.cooklib.org, and there actually is a section on there called In the Studio. And you're right, I think we'd love to be able to show people all around the library community what is going on in this booth and what people are actually creating. So if somebody did record something and they wanted to maybe share it with us, would they just contact you then? Or
Yes, just contact me and we will put it onto our Shelf Life blog for everyone else in the library to listen to and possibly get more interested in using our booth.
All right, well, I just want to thank you, John, for filling us in on the new studio. Thanks for being here on the podcast, finally.
Finally?
Yeah. So
you forgot about me.
Yeah. Never, John. So if you want to book some time in the Digital Studios, you can, as John mentioned, visit the Digital Studio page online for more information about, different, how long you can book and all that kind of stuff. That can be found on the homepage of our website, which is www.cooklib.org. While you're on the website, be sure to make a quick pit stop over at Shelf Life, the blog that we just mentioned. That blog includes all sorts of stuff, including book suggestions. We tell local history stories. We give out genealogy tips and a whole lot more. And that blog, again, can be found at shelflife.cooklib.org. If you have any further comments or questions about anything we talked about in this podcast, you can always shoot me an email. That address is webmaster@cooklib.org. And if you like what we're doing with this podcast, do not forget to just share it with your friends. And it would also help us out a ton if you'd be willing to take just a moment and leave us a kind rating on iTunes. We will be back soon, but until then, keep reading, keep watching, and keep listening.